No, actually look at your family top to bottom. We're all playing games. The brands that understand that, they know how to double down on gaming moving forward.
Yeah, run it up.
Welcome back to Brands in Play, the podcast exploring how brands, platforms, creators are connecting with audiences across gaming, entertainment, and immersive media. I'm Eli Santos, founder of Vibeblast and host of the Metavertising podcast, and I'm here with...
And I'm Nick Hill, co-founder and chief innovation officer at Sawhorse. We got a great show lined up for you this week. In the news, Meta's facial recognition backlash, Netflix launches a new FIFA World Cup game, Anthropic's new AI model, and are brands ruining microdramas?
And for our real-time review, Nick visits the Hospital of Emotions. It's a new immersive art exhibition, all happening inside a real abandoned hospital in LA. I'm actually curious to hear this one.
It's pretty dope. And later, we're joined by John Benyamine, co-founder and chief innovation officer at Moonrock, to discuss building marketing campaigns that actually cut through to the gaming audience.
Amazing. And make sure to subscribe, guys. Every week, we break down how brands, platforms, and creators are showing up across gaming, entertainment, and immersive media.
Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Run it up.
Eli, it's your second show.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. The last one, a lot of positive feedback. And yeah, it was just a pleasure to record it. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, you did great last time. You're going to do great this time. We appreciate you. And this is actually our 70th episode. That's 70 weeks back to back of getting this show done. So pretty wild. Definitely appreciating all the fans and listeners for tuning in each week.
Thank you for listening to us, guys. So shall we get into the news?
Yeah, let's go to the news.
All right, so first one is some people on the internet, but mostly people from Wired, the news outlet, a website, they found hidden facial recognition code in the Meta AI app for the Ray-Ban glasses, which obviously
So this means the update that they did had facial recognition in it, and previously it didn't.
Yeah, and then obviously it faced like huge backlash online, and it was basically ready to be used. I heard from some people that are, connected with, like Meta and everything, that it was supposed to be used like, for you to interact with your family, with close friends. So it's not supposed to be used to like just, like do facial recognition on random people on the street. But obviously, like it faced huge backlash online. Shortly after this happened, they removed the facial recognition software from the glasses.
Yeah, it's very serious, this privacy concern with smart glasses across the board. Not just Meta. Meta is like leading. They have the most units out in production in the United States, I think. But I think I wear them every day, and people are always asking me like, "Oh, are you recording me right now?" Like they don't want to, they don't. Society's maybe not ready for these. Then there's no real rules in place. Like, what are the best practices? What are the social norms about having smart glasses publicly?
Yeah.
And none of that's been figured out yet. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's like a reckoning coming for all of the companies that are developing these. There's probably some rules and laws that will be rolling out as mass adoption hits. Moving on to my first story is all about Netflix launching the new FIFA World Cup game, which is pretty awesome. So this is a playable game that is available to all Netflix subscribers at no extra cost. There's no ads. There's no in-app purchases. And what's cool is that you play on your TV, but you use your cell phone as the controller. So essentially a QR code pops up. You can just hold your phone up, and then now that becomes a controller. I think it goes up to like 4 players. Essentially, it's designed to just be in like the living room setting with your friends or your family, and you can just jump in and play. And what's cool is that it's like a clone of the World Cup as far as all the teams are represented, the 48 teams. And what's really interesting is all the players are represented as well. Over 1,000 actual players are in this game. And it's got real-time updates. So if a player gets injured during one of the matches, that gets reflected in the game, which is kind of similar to what a lot of these sports live service games like NBA 2K are doing as well. But what's interesting is that the amount of the Netflix audience that plays the games is only 1% of the whole Netflix audience, because 99%
That's
of the people are just
crazy.
watching content.
That's
So I
crazy.
wonder, like, is this type of game and IP going to help grow that side of the gaming? Because the World Cup is so big. Do you think this
Yeah.
is going to be a carrot? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because this is part of a larger push from Netflix, right? They've been doing
Doing gaming
gaming
for a
for like
minute.
yeah, for quite some time now. And I do think like, when you think about entertainment, like you have Netflix shows, then next to it you have games, like it makes sense. But as you said, like maybe completely different target audiences, like 1%, that's crazy. But at the same time, like it sounds small, but what is 1% out of the total audience from Netflix, right? So it's
It's still
probably
a
a lot,
decent
yeah, like,
decent number, and
it's
if
still a
that
lot.
grows, then you could see a world where it becomes, like, valuable,
Yeah,
to brands, but I think the interesting thing for brands to think about is, like, this user behavior, because basically Netflix is adding a layer of interactivity to its entertainment offering, and I feel like more and more platforms are gonna start doing that. So if you're a brand and your consumer is no longer just passively watching, they're actively playing or engaging, how does a brand show up in that way
true,
creatively and it from an interactive standpoint? I think that's
true.
something worth thinking about.
That's a great point, Nick. And let's go to the third piece of news. So, Anthropic just launched Fable 5, which is their new AI model.
The
And
hype.
there's a lot of interesting things to talk about this one because there was this story that like they developed this model called Mythos, right? And when they built Mythos, they released it to like a few select clients across, like their base of like global clients. And just, we're talking about like American government, like massive brands. And the feedback that they got from these clients was do not release this thing because it's too powerful, it's dangerous. And so this got like,
Wait,
got
so
very
where'd the feedback come from? Clients?
from clients that they got firsthand access to
Okay,
the Mythos model. So
got it.
like their feedback was like you should not release this because it's too dangerous. And so it went viral on the news when that happened. Like everyone was talking about it. So now they launched a new model called Fable 5, which is supposedly like like a controlled version of Mythos. And then it sits above obviously the Opus model, which was the one that we've been using for quite some time now. And then there's a couple of like, examples of how, Fable was used and how impressive it is. So Stripe used it to do a code migration in a day that would have taken a team 2 months. Fable 5 was able to beat Pokemon Fire Red using only screenshots and built a working solar system simulation from scratch. There's a likelihood of like, cyber attacks happening more often and this and that. I think it is indeed very impressive, but it's not like it's, twice as better than, Opus 4.8, which is the
So you
previous
think
model.
it's people are overhyping
Yeah, I think
the
it's like
severity?
20% better at best,
Mm.
like I could be wrong, I could be wrong because
Yeah,
it's been only 24 hours.
yeah. I don't know. It feels overhyped. I feel like everyone wants those buzzwords. Like this
Yeah,
is the death of
exactly. Yeah.
this, or this is so dangerous. Like, and I think didn't Sam Altman recently like have this public letter about um ChatGPT, like the new models being like so dangerous that
Yeah.
they shouldn't release them, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
publicly saying all that. And I think one argument is that like the purpose of that is to kind of inflate the stock price and get people excited and like,
Yeah.
so
They're
I think
going
that
for
there's a lot of,
IPO. Yeah, they're going
yeah,
for IPO.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. So it's a perfect timing for that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, look, I think everything is overhyped in the media cycle, right? And I
Yeah.
think this is probably a good example of that.
Yeah.
But the argument is a real concern
Yeah.
because the technology is evolving at such a rapid pace that,
That is true.
you know, this argument is real. The
Yeah.
tool will get so advanced that it will be so strong that we
Yeah.
won't be able to protect against it. And some really bad things are going to happen in our society. We'll
Yeah.
probably figure out how to solve it, but it's
Yeah.
almost like, the first time they just released freeways and
Yeah.
cars could drive at a faster speed. Like some people were going to get in car accidents and die because of
Yeah.
that.
That is true.
Like
Yeah.
that is a similar,
Yeah.
description of what's going to happen with AI.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the moment for that, but that moment is coming, I think.
Yeah, yeah. One comparison that I like to make is when people are complaining, like, when Uber came out, and then taxi drivers were like, "Yeah, no, like you should not ride an Uber. You should just keep using taxi." And then like there was this huge also backlash from like governments and everything, like trying to keep Uber away. So yeah, it might be similar, but I don't know.
We'll see. Just hang on. And our advice that we always talk about is like lean into AI. Like have an open mind, try it out. Don't be a stranger to it. I think that's how you stay on top and you don't become obsolete. Okay, my last story, I saw this in Fast Company. I thought this was really interesting. They were comparing the hype of micro dramas to the metaverse, right? So like in the early days of the metaverse where all the brands were running in to be like, "Oh, that's where all the attention is.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want. Like just build the brand world and this is going to be great." And so many of those early brand worlds just failed because they weren't native to what the user base actually wants to do. And that's where the concept of understanding the audience and doing integrations and figuring out how to get IP in works. And so the sort of concept, the argument that they're making is that all the brands are now rushing in to create their own microdramas. And when they do this, a lot of them aren't respecting or understanding the format or the audience. So they're like approaching it as like, oh, these are my little 2-minute ads that are like funny. That's not really the format. So those are being rejected. And I think that in order to be successful, it's the same thing that we've seen in UGC gaming, which is like if you're gonna go in, understand that community and do it right. You can't just show up and slap your logo on stuff and think that people are gonna make it work. So that's maybe a lesson we can learn from the past and apply it here. And one thing that the article mentions, which I thought was really interesting, is beyond social media as a home for tons of microdramas that creators and brands are making, they have the microdrama apps, Real Short and Drama Box. Have you seen those apps?
No, actually not. No.
So these are like subscription and pay per episode kind of apps, and they are extremely successful. So just to give you an idea, Real Short hit 38 million US downloads last year, and the format did 819 million in revenue in 24, and it's projected to hit 3.8 billion by 2030. So it's like now there's a financial incentive around creation of microdramas, and those two platforms are like kind of hypercharging that.
Yeah, I love that actually. I've seen some of those like going around, reels and everything, and it is really like it catches your attention and it makes you want to like stay and watch it, right? And I think like this is a result, like this is a kind of like a logical next step on the attention economy that we're living of like short videos, like short stories, and so why not short dramas, right? I've seen KFC doing the same in Brazil, and like with a really like K drama kind of like theme, which is really popular right now, like and there's this brand, I wouldn't call them a brand, they're a tech startup, they're called Cluely, and they've been like kind of like using the format of The Office, the popular show, and they apply it to their company. So it's like their company becomes like kind of like The Office, and everything is like on Reels and TikTok, and they are growing very popular. And then there's this analysis that they are betting on the future of B2B, of like the future leaders of B2B. They're gonna be the young, the Gen Z, Gen Alpha today, right? So the bet is that this format could work much better to advertise a brand than the current methods that are used nowadays for B2B. So
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting analysis, and I think it's connected to what you're saying. And yeah, I definitely think this is something to like, if you're a brand and you're listening to this is something to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's like this is the immersive marketing, in practice, which is how are you creating content and providing entertainment to consumers so that they're, experiencing and participating with your brand in a way that, makes them aware of you, but also converts because they engage with purpose as opposed to just messages that get sent out. So we're just going to see a ton more, and it's exciting times for that.
Exciting. Let's go now to our real-time review.
Real-time review. Last week, I went to a really interesting activation here in Los Angeles. It's an immersive art pop-up that was inside of a real abandoned hospital, which
That's
is
crazy.
super dope. It's called the Hospital of Emotions. And what's great is that they worked with 70 artists who transformed 80 rooms around mental health, emotions, themes, and each room had a totally different artist that did a different concept they brought to life. This is running now through July 31st. The cost is $55 for a ticket. It's great because there's a handful of themes, and the themes are broken up by floor. So joy, fear, love, anger, it was like all stuff that you could feel while being at inside a hospital yourself.
That's crazy. It looks really interesting. What did you like about it? I'm curious.
I thought the location was awesome. Like going inside of an actual hospital was very unique. It feels legit, and the art is beautiful. Like if you're watching this, you can totally see the level of craft that went into each one of these rooms. Artists from all different disciplines, so the styles and the energy is completely different as you go from room to room, which was cool. And in general, it's about 2 hours of content if you were to go walk in through each room. So it's a good bang for your buck. Very much feels like a clever art show or
All
art
right.
activation. In the same way you would go to like a museum
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of tailored in a custom way. It didn't feel like an immersive interactive story that you could kind of go to the next level with. And there's almost
Yeah.
no layers of interactivity. So
You
I
were
think
just
that
like watching it.
yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like if you think about places like Meow Wolf, for instance, it's like you go on a journey. Like you have to interact with people for purpose. You have to listen to things. You have to explore and discover. This is very much like a clean gallery. Like you
All
know
right.
exactly what to do. You walk down the hallway of the hospital and you look at each room as you go,
Yeah.
then you go to the next floor. There's no sort of story arc
Yeah.
or layer of interactivity that pulls you in a more immersive way.
Kind of like you're an observer.
Yeah, you're like an observer in a museum, which
Yeah.
is great. Like, don't get me wrong. I still think
Right.
people should go check this out. It's just we talk about a lot of interactivity and immersion on this show, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like this didn't go as far as it could have.
Interesting. Do you think that the lessons here could be relevant to brands?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big point here is that these IRL activations, right? It's there's this new trend and demand for people to get out and actually do things. There's the AI fatigue that we're all aware of. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's just more of these moments where it's like, cool, this is actually a thing that's happening in the city. We're all going to it. There's more of that. So I think, brands can look at something like this and use it as an example of what they can do. Because so often these IRL pop-ups are not that deep. They get a little bit of buzz on Instagram. They're like Instagram traps. They're like designed
Mm-hmm.
for you to show up, do your selfie in front of the thing, and then walk away. You need to go further and deeper than that. And I think, sort of moments like this go deeper. When you do something that's
Right.
unexpected and you do something that's like clever and intentional, you actually earn a lot more engagement and attention. And I feel like this Hospital of Emotions really delivers on that.
Interesting. It's still like even if you're just an observer, it's still like an intense experience, right?
Yeah, it's cool. And like emotionally, you do feel those things. Some rooms are like scary and uncomfortable, and other rooms are like really joyful and soft. So you really do go through a lot of feelings as you walk through this thing. I highly recommend people check it out. All right, well, let's move on to our interview segment of the show. Our next guest has spent 20 years across gaming, media, live events, and brand partnerships. He's co-founder and chief innovation officer at Moonrock, which he founded with John Godiosi. It's the only gaming-focused agency on Fast Company's most innovative companies of 2026, and Inc. magazine ranked it the fastest growing company in advertising and marketing. Moonrock runs large-scale programs at shows like San Diego Comic-Con, Anime Expo, and does integrations with Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft for brands like Walmart, Samsung, and he also works on bringing IP to film and TV. So let's go to my interview with John Benyamine. John, welcome to Brands in Play.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nick. Been a long time listener and viewer since the start. Yeah, so I love the show. Thanks, sir, for the
Right
invite.
on.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's been amazing partnering on a few projects together, Sawhorse and Moonrock. So, we go way back at this
We
point,
do.
and it's been a while since I've wanted to have you guys on the show. So excited to jump in. So for the listeners that might not really have a background on understanding of what Moonrock is as an agency, can you explain, kind of what you guys do, the origin story, and kind of what your value add is?
Sure. Yeah. So John Godiosi is my partner. He and we started Moonrock about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago at this point. And it's more of a gaming centric agency that really focuses on experiential. So what that means is really digital and physical events. We look at experiences as spanning both. So we do things like IRL events at San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, Anime Expo. We're going to be there in a couple weeks. We bring brands over to those kinds of fandoms, expose them to an amazing community, and really try to have a natural engagement between the brands and those fandoms. So we've done that physically. We've also done that digitally. You're a huge partner. Like Sawhorse has been a great partner of ours in coming up with what really reaches or resonates in that digital realm. And that means if it's a Roblox experience, we've done stuff in Minecraft and, other platforms. It's been pretty awesome to just engage with those gamers. So Moonrock, gaming centric agency. We've been doing this for quite a while. And it's just how do you authentically engage with those people? That's what we're about.
Awesome. Yeah. Authentic engagement with communities that are often hard to reach. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
gr-
And the big thing is we come from that space as in we are gamers. We have gone to Comic
you
Cons.
speak the language.
We speak the language and it's important to us. So I think if it's important to us, it comes through in what we're bringing, what we're creating for brands, what we're creating for the audience. And I think that's why we're seeing so much resonance. So that's been cool.
So this is a unique form of advertising. This is not your standard advertising. I guess my question would be, in your opinion, why is this valuable to brands?
Well,
What you guys do?
yeah. So I think we're seeing, I mean, we could go philosophical here a little bit. I think we're seeing as the world really adapts, more AI, as things get a little bit more narrowcast, I think we're seeing the importance of fandom and actual authentic engagement with our passion points. Like we were just talking about basketball just now, right? And
Yeah.
a huge playoffs that's been happening here. And as a longtime Knicks fan, it's been amazing to see the city come out and just have this kind of vibe and this energy. And I think if you go to Anime Expo in July, if you go to San Diego Comic-Con late July, New York Comic-Con, you could go down the list, look around and look at the fans and look at the experiences. And I think that is getting a lot more attention, or it's getting a lot more valuable today than ever before, because digitally everything's becoming a little bit samey potentially. We try to, I think both of our companies try to prevent that, but I think the way we try to prevent it is by authentically engaging with those fandoms. And I think over time, it's becoming much more important to brands to really reach those audiences in unique ways. The differentiation is so massive. So I think fandom brings a uniqueness that just is kind of lost when you think about traditional marketing sometimes.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's interesting there is you're talking about really connecting with the fans. This is not just a brand's sh- uh, giving their message to consumers. This is them showing up in such deep ways where they are creating content or adding value or showing up within their communities, sometimes physically, to your point. And I think that really does cut through. It's like it's hard to ignore that when you are celebrating the thing that you love somewhere and a brand shows up in a way that's attached to that, but also adding value to the experience. I mean,
It
that's
has to add
valuable.
value. Yeah, it has to add value. It's participation, not just placement, right? I think a logo slap, I think it hurt esports for a time when it would just be a logo slap on a jersey or on a stanchion or whatever. And then they knew that it had to evolve where there was more participation. So if I look at some of the things that have gone out there with Chipotle and their engagement with the fighting game community,
Yeah.
they decided, and that's Rev3 as the agency, I think of note, they decided to go out there and really think about a niche within a niche. Instead of thinking about gaming, like thinking that all gamers are the same, they said, you know what? Fighting game community, they want support. The community is looking for engagement. And Chipotle actually started to give it to them on a regular basis. So
Yep.
whereas year one, it was like, oh, here's Chipotle, maybe it's just a logo slap. No, by year 3, you have a stadium at Evo chanting for Chipotle. That's pretty amazing, and that's all natural, that's all organic, that's what you want.
Right. If you do it right, that's what you earn,
That's
is an
exactly what you
entire
want.
subculture, approving and wanting your brand, right?
Exactly, and I think, whereas we started, as gamers back 25 years ago, and look, when I was in high school, gaming was a niche, thing, right? And, it wasn't the coolest thing. Now it is part of the culture, and those folks have grown up, and the kids that they're having, they're playing games. I think the ESA numbers, show an average age of 37 for gamers right now. So, what, 75% of them are parents who play games. 81% of those people play games with their kids.
Yeah.
So if you think about the validity of this audience, whereas when I was a high schooler and I was just playing games with my friends, it was a niche thing that maybe was really easily ignored. I think over
That
the
was
last
like, teenage boys at that point, like those
yes,
early days, it was like,
exactly.
it's definitely younger, it's definitely more male, it's all
Yes.
like console based, right? Before
All
they even
console
had a
based.
lot of PC stuff going on,
Yeah.
like
And
that was a tiny audience that was gaming at a time.
it was for teenage boys, and the marketing really reflected that. Not
Right.
only the type of marketing, but the size of the spends, right? And the target audience, obviously, it's the that there's that connection. What we're seeing now, especially the last several years, and I think we all see this, some brands better than others, they see there is a mainstream validity to this. And you can't just hit it as it's like saying, I'm gonna market to moviegoers. Okay, but there are completely different moviegoers out there,
Different audience segments.
completely different audience segments. And I think we're starting to see brands, some of them have been on board for the past few years, catching an early wave. We're still seeing brands a little bit late to the action, but I think over time, as the audience grows more mature, as these CMOs start to really understand the nuances of this gaming audience and companies like ours, we were able to help shepherd them through these, niches. I think you're going to see gaming just reach new heights. So it's just a matter of time.
Yep, well said. Let's jump into some case studies and some past work.
Sure.
Can you highlight a campaign that you're super proud of that executed really well? I think Samsung was one of the ones that you had sent over.
Yeah, Samsung was great. I mean, we've worked with them for multiple years. One thing that we did was called the Samsung Galaxy Gear Up Cup. So the Gear Up Cup was a $100,000 tournament. We did it in Las Vegas at a big gaming convention, and it did something like 192 million impressions that we were able to track. It got 3 Shorty nominations. The most important thing, though, it connected Samsung with a Call of Duty mobile gaming audience that was super passionate. We did that through influencers, we did that through pro players, we did that with the fandom that was going to this gaming convention, Level Up Expo in Las Vegas. And that just did extremely well, where it had resonance and it actually led to a multi-year deal with Samsung where we brought Samsung Galaxy of games to many fan events, including New York Comic Con and San Diego and whatnot. So I'd say I was really proud of that. I think the team did great there. Doug Parsons from our team, Jason Cipriano. We have a good group here, great group, and our partners at TMS, Mike Doherty and Katie Samuels. They did fantastic. That was really their lead, and they brought us in to really help support on the gaming side. So that did great. Yeah, I'd say I was proud of that. Another one was the Milk Cup. So the Milk Cup was the largest ever all-female Fortnite tournament we gave, and
And
that
just to
was with
clarify, the
yeah,
brand there was milk, like
actual
the
milk.
actual milk.
Actual beverage milk. So the Got Milk people from back in the day, and they're doing Gonna Need Milk now. So that was with Max Bass over at Gale and Abby Coma, and that was just fun because we got to do something digitally that lasted throughout much of the year with digital tournaments, and we were trying to really engage with a certain demographic using Fortnite, and then bringing all the finalists out to Los Angeles Comic Con, and earlier last year to TwitchCon for the big finals. So we see this underserved audience of women gamers having the spotlight,
Yeah.
right? And the Milk Cup did that in a fantastic way. You saw them come to these events, and the enthusiasm, and not only from them and their teammates, but from the family members they brought,
Mhm.
and from their guardians and from their friends. That's the real connection that will last forever. I mean, think about that web that goes from that one person that you're really inspiring and supporting, and it's connecting to all these people. Uh, I'd say I was very proud of that one.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I went You invited me. So I went to the
Yeah,
LA. Yeah,
right.
I got to see the
You got
finals,
to see
which
it.
was super impressive. I mean, that was a big scale. I remember it exceeded my expectations when I showed up because I was like, "Oh, wow.
No.
This is a large footprint. The amount of stations and PCs that you had
Yeah,
for all of the competitors alone was a
it was
huge
over
thing."
100. It was
Yeah,
over 100,
that's
and
one side, and then the other side is a massive stage, huge screens, and then off to the side, different booths and things to interact. I mean, it was a massive footprint. It was really
no.
impressive.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, it was a great team effort. Moonrock, we came in with the overall gaming strategy. This was with Gale, but we also had eFuse and Radiant. So we were bringing in, like, it wasn't only all women in terms of the tournament and the participants, it was also the back of the house. It was also making sure that the production team was all women. So for us, it meant that we had to go outside of Moonrock just to make sure that we were getting the best of the best to make this from soup to nuts authentic. And that's where Radiant came in, and they were great partners of ours, and also eFuse coming in with their Women of Esports series. So it was really cool, and it was a testament of to setting aside some of the red tape or maybe egos or whatever it is, and just collaborate to make something special happen. And I think that's what happened with the Milk Cup.
Where do you think we're at with the industry right now of immersive marketing or video game marketing? Do you think brands are, flooding in? Are they on the fence? Is it a stagnant? Is it growing? What's your take over the past couple years?
I mean, I think especially over the last year, at least our take is we're past the experimental phase. I think we're with some brands. I think some brands have done the experiments and they will continue to invest. Some brands that are new to gaming or would be new to gaming, I think they're going back to tried and true just to weather this storm for some of these companies.
When you say storm, what, reacting to the economy?
I think a reaction to the economy. I think reaction to some of the tariffs that when they were, the big news. I think we see some, now we're starting to see some of those brands come back that maybe they're a little bit more sure of the economy moving forward. But I think gaming is on that cusp where it's, people know it's an important aspect of marketing, but it's also it feels like it's one of the first things to cut. And I think it's for brands that don't understand the importance of gaming and how integral it is in the culture. I mean, if you look at the ESA numbers that came out, it's something like 63% say games deliver better entertainment than movies, music, anything. Biggest bang for the buck in terms of entertainment is games. That's our job to try to convert some of those brands and tell them,
Yeah.
hey, we can bring you to gaming. It is valuable. There's something
It
here.
will take time because it does still
It
feel
does take
new,
time.
and there's just not a lot of scalable solutions to easily activate inside of gaming in the same way it is in the traditional media world, but all
Yes.
that's changing, and we're experiencing that now, which
Slowly
is
but
great.
surely it is. Yeah.
But, this leads into my next question that's pretty important. How do you and your clients define success and measure success within these activations? There's a lot of different things that people track. What is the one thing that if you had to pick one thing that you could point to say, "Look, when we do these activations, we get this," and the brands think that is very valuable. What is
I
that?
mean, right now it's engagement. It's like proven engagement. So if normally you would track with impressions and views and consider that earned media, but what kind of engagement do they have with your brands? So I'll give you the example of Walmart Skyward. Walmart Skyward was a Minecraft experience that we created over the course of 12 weeks for Walmart, and it was not directly like you're at a Walmart and now we're shopping there or whatever. It was a story-driven, narrative-driven thing that engaged with the Minecraft community. So I think it's engagement. I think, more than impressions and views. And what I mean by engagement is when somebody is in an interactive world, they are spending not just a few seconds looking at your logo or your brand. They're spending, 10, 15, 20 minutes really like engaging in a world where your brand is coming to life. So we're not talking about even putting, look, it's valuable to put a trailer up and show the movie trailer, in front of everybody in the gaming world. But I think how do you do that next step where you're actually engaging with the brand in existing games or in new experiences? I think that's where gaming shows the most success and the most uniqueness. So it is a metric that is a little bit tough for us to uncover. It's not as easy to show compared to like, here are the impressions levels.
Right.
But
And
with
we don't really have
education,
a value metric for that. What is
correct.
engagement worth? It's not really it's different than time spent. Like,
Yeah,
because we talk about time spent in, like, watching something, but,
right.
like, time spent engaged with something, especially with an interactive medium, it holds a different value, and we do not have a standardized measurement system to value that.
We do not have a standardized measurement system. One thing that I mean, so we're left to our own devices to try to come up with that.
And with the last 5 minutes or so that we have, I just wanna kinda shift the conversation over to this concept, and this is not a new concept, but it is, we're seeing more of it now, of video game IP being translated into entertainment medium.
Sure.
Movies, short format branded content, micro dramas. It's there's so much content that's starting as a game and then going into new forms of sort of more traditional entertainment. You guys are working with Kitchen to adapt Roblox titles. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So yeah, John Godiosi and I, we've been working with Story Kitchen to really bring game IP to the big screen. So John and I, because we've had these relationships with games and publishers and developers for a couple decades now, we've been able to usher them to Story Kitchen, who have produced things like Sonic the Hedgehog, the Sonic movies, the upcoming Prime Video Tomb Raider series with Sophie Turner. Like these are proper big productions and, it's not just Roblox games. We just recently announced Grow a Garden and Steal a Brainrot with
Huge.
our yeah, like, these are 2 of the biggest, games on Roblox. We've been able to work with, those publishers, Think Influence, like, it takes a village, right? But we're trying to usher them into some really pretty awesome conversations to bring them to the big screen. we're doing that even with indie games and traditional console games, some of which we can talk about, like Dredge. Dredge is a huge indie type, PC game that's now on console actually, but also other games that we can announce. The idea is all these game IPs, they have huge audiences. And these movie studios obviously want to take advantage of those audiences. And we're able to do that by showing a respect for the game IP and the game worlds that those publishers and developers are creating, and then ushering them through this process in Hollywood. So big pictures, like motion pictures, that's our focus right now. We are looking at what's next, seeing the micro dramas and short form and all this stuff. And I think we'll have some stuff to talk about soon. But it's been pretty awesome. And you see, even with the Backrooms being the #1 movie in America, that's not a game IP. But if you think about it, that came from a YouTube short, right? And
Well,
now,
that was what I wanted to also touch on is like you've got these creators on YouTube and on Roblox and other sort of UGC, grassroots places that are coming up with IPs, and those are like sort of escalating into Hollywood, into mainstream culture because there's so much engagement that they get in their native platforms that they become real valuable IPs. Do you feel like this
yes.
is a trend that will continue and grow, or do you think this is like a one-off moment for
No,
UGC?
it's here to stay. I think Backrooms is a watershed moment, at least in terms of motion pictures. I think, why did me and my 14-year-old kid, why did we know that Backrooms it was gonna be huge? When A24 announced that they got that IP, I'm like, "Wow, that is going to be big." And then it became the biggest release of A24's history. So this is here to stay. Kane Parsons, director there, that type of creator, that indie type, that's here to stay. You've seen a lot of print about it. This shouldn't be shocking, and this is going to be the start of a trend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us today on Brands and Play. We're big fans of Moonrock. You guys are doing fantastic work. Keep it up.
Oh, Nick, thank you. Appreciate the invite.
Right on. Let's go back to the show. And we're back. Eli, what do you think of John?
Yeah, super interesting. I do think there is a huge value in properly presenting experiences IRL when you are, in events and everything. It's really interesting to see John and his team. They really like put some thought into it. They do it right, and yeah, like it is very valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hope this trend continues, this demand for IRL, because I think as a brand, when you're trying to connect with consumers, you can do it in such a deep way when it is in person, and you are attaching to cultural moments and like big fandom. And I feel like these guys know how to do that, and I just hope more brands are doing more activations because I always enjoy them when I participate. But let's keep going. Final segment of the show. Let's go to the hit, miss, bet. You're up again. What's your hit?
We haven't talked about it the last time because we talked about Adidas a World Cup ad.
Yep.
Nike released their own ad as well, and it's called "The Goat's Goodbye." And there's this segment in the ad which is LeBron James and Cristiano Ronaldo, and they're sitting on the table, and then there's this like these movie producers, and they're trying to hand in the script, "The Goat's Goodbye" to them, and they just keep like, "No, it's the goat's goodbye. It's for you, you know." And then Cristiano
Oh, they
goes,
keep
"No, no, no,
passing it. They're like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not retiring.
Yeah, no,
You
it's
are.
not the
And
goat's goodbye for me. Yeah." And then the other goes, "No, it is for you. It's the goat's goodbye." And so it's really funny. And yeah, like what's interesting is that there's nothing super innovative about it. It's similar to what we talked about last time with the Adidas ad, but it's awesome, like it works. And I think, in my opinion, this one worked a lot better for me than the Adidas one. We had Mbappe, we had Vinny Jr., Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, Ronaldinho appears in the ad, which is crazy. Haaland, Zlatan, and even big stars like Kim Kardashian, Travis Scott, Lisa from Blackpink, Channing
damn.
Tatum. And yeah, like there's nothing crazy about it. They're just playing soccer throughout a studio in Hollywood and but it works, and it's like it's brilliant. And I've watched the whole thing like from beginning to end, and I just thought it was amazing, like, and I thought it was better than the Adidas one. So that's
Okay, well,
crazy.
I gotta check that out. But I mean, in general, it's awesome, these high budget brand short films where
I
you
love
can
it.
get
Yeah.
that much talent, celebrity talent, like to show up and do a clever short that's gonna engage with people. It's pretty awesome. All
Yeah.
right, what's your miss?
So, related to the meta news that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, after the backlash about, like the facial recognition and everything, someone released a website called bayran.eu in an attempt to ban the Meta Ray-Bans from Europe. This
Well,
comes
they're not
after,
available in Europe yet, right?
yeah, but they just want to
They
keep it.
want to be
They are
proactive
actually,
and prevent it from ever coming.
yeah, like you can actually get the Gen 1 and Gen 2s already here in Europe, but they, like, I think they just, they're trying to keep it out completely, like they want everything out. And this actually comes after a piece of news that women in Brussels are going to court after being filmed without their knowledge. So, it is, as we were just talking about it, right? Like, and similar stuff happened with Google when they launched their glasses, like their first
A long
smart
time ago.
glasses, like more than 10 years ago. Similar stuff happened with a smartphone as well when they started putting cameras on smartphones. So, yeah, like I'm not sure if this is like a natural, progression of things, but it is. If you're a brand, I think it's important for you to stay on top of this, but also like understand that there is also a lot of opportunity in these new formats in glasses. Like, I'm a big believer in glasses, and so like I've yet to see a good brand activation using the Ray-Ban glasses, like, and that's a big opportunity. It
It's
does.
coming for sure. I mean, I think within the next few months, we're going to start to see like a couple of decent sized brands, releasing some apps that are accessible on the glasses. But I do think that is maybe some friction. Is this unknown space, these lawsuits, people's discomfort with the smart glass technology in public, and brands feeling comfortable being like a part of that? I don't know. How do you get over that hurdle, of people just like accepting it?
Yeah.
What's your bet?
So, I this is a similar that I've already talked about the last episode, but it's just that this is a big bat, right? And this is so like it's close. It's so close. So Snap, they've been hyping hard their announcement of whatever it is that they're gonna be announcing
At
next
AWE
at a.
tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on the 16th, Tuesday, they're gonna be going on stage. They've worth noting, they've created a new company called Specs. So now everything related to glasses from Snap, it actually belongs to the company called Specs. Um, and they've been teasing a lot of stuff on their pages, on the Specs pages, and just focusing on this announcement that's gonna happen on the 16th.
Yeah, I saw
Based
I
on,
saw a promo that they just ran that was like all these comments from people online. They're like, "It's
yeah,
gonna be big. It better be good." So Snap is definitely overhyping it. But
they
what's your
are.
bet?
I think, honestly, I think these are gonna be really, really impressive, honestly, because if you've tried their previous the spectacles, which is their the other glasses that the previous ones that they've released, technically it is quite impressive. And so these ones are supposed to be not necessarily more technically advanced, but more suited for consumers, and still packing like powerful technology, which is something that the other companies are not doing, because Google, Meta, like all of the other big ones, they are focused on like, what is the minimum version of this that I can ship, and it's going to be affordable and people are going
Yeah,
to want to
cost
buy.
effective is the key word, because I guess we'll find out, but I think they're targeting those the specs glasses to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like $2,500 for a unit,
Yeah.
which is cost prohibitive for most people.
Yeah, that's the rumor, but I think if the tech is good enough and if it looks good enough, I think people are gonna want it. If it's as impressive as they're kind of like sounding it's gonna be, like they're sounding like, it sounds like it's gonna be amazing, like the best thing since sliced bread, but we're gonna have
So
to wait
make
to
a
see.
prediction for the next 6 months. Let's say going into January 1st of next year, who's leading the wearable space?
I
Google,
think
Meta, or Specs?
definitely Meta, but I think with this whole, like, like all these big companies jumping in, people buying more of these glasses, adoption increasing, I think we're going to be in a much different scenario January next year. And I think, the acceptance is going to be higher, but also like just the overall technology, the apps, just the experience of using glasses is going to be completely different. And I
There you
think
go.
this is a huge opportunity. So it is definitely my big bet.
All right, I'll take that bet. And that's a wrap for this week's show. We want to thank everyone for listening, and we also want to thank John for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to us. If you're enjoying Brands in Play, make sure to follow the show. Every week, we break down how brands, platforms, and creators operate across gaming, entertainment, and immersive media. And that's it. Also, my shameless plug, don't forget to follow my podcast as well, Metavertising, if you're interested about smart glasses. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to us today.
Thank you. Edward, please read us out.
And that was Brands in Play. Thank you for joining the podcast where we explore immersive marketing and the people who are leading it. Our show today was produced and edited by myself, Edward Regiu. Be sure to join us every week for brand new episodes.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views, policies, or positions of host employers. The information shared during this podcast is based on personal experience and publicly available information and is intended for informational purposes only. Any references to specific platforms, companies, or partnerships are made in a personal capacity and do not imply endorsement, partnership, or official association with any organization.